Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Driven Wild. Today we are talking about what dashers do that merchants hate. Let me ask you a quick question. How many of you know that you can actually be banned from delivering for a specific restaurant? No, seriously. You actually can be banned from a specific restaurant. Yes, they can give you boar ratings to reduce the frequency of you getting those orders, but they can also contact Doordash to make sure you are banned from the restaurant. And sometimes, depending on the report itself, they can lead to deactivation. So with that said, in order to protect you and your accounts so that way you can make the most money possible, I am going to talk to you guys about what merchants hate that dashers do and how to fix them, or how to adjust your approach so that way it is beneficial for you as a dasher. Also, I'm gonna tell you guys how I was banned from a merchant, because I think looking back now, it was a funny story. But before any of that, let's start with some disclaimers. The content of this video does not and is never intended to be legal, business, financial, or tax advice of any kind. This video is for entertainment purposes only, and it is advised that you conduct your own research and consult with qualified professionals before applying anything you find online. So with that said, let's get started. Number one is being too pushy with your phone. I think this is the number one for a lot of to-go people these days, is where you'll go to a merchant and in order for you to get the to-go person's attention, your first thought process is to shove their phone in their face, because that is a responsible adult thing to do, as if anybody can read from this far away from their face. I understand in some cases where you just can't pronounce the name of the person that you're trying to pick up for, and it's challenging for you. So instead of just pushing it in their face, my recommendation is to actually just guide their gaze. Don't push it at them, guide it to them. See what I mean? Total difference. I have yet to have an issue where somebody says, ugh, just tell me the name. I'm not looking at your phone. It also works as a way for them to verify that you're the dasher to pick up their order. And merchants prefer knowing that they're handing it off to the right person more than they care about you pronouncing someone's name right. Merchants like to work with people they can trust. Second is rushing the merchant. Seriously, some people just don't have patience. Like complaining that you've been waiting for your food for a certain amount of time is going to cook the food and get the order ready faster. There is no value or merit, especially if you're dealing with a nicer place or a busier restaurant. They're going to say they're going to check on it in the back. They're going to totally get sidetracked, and it's not really going to go anywhere. It also doesn't help to give them an attitude about it either, because let's be honest, they don't want to deal with rude people, and they're not going to do any favors if you're going to be rude to them. I remember one time I was picking up for Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza. It was a busy night. They were getting orders left, right, and center, and the guy was waiting for a good amount of time. And I remember that he was telling me that he called Doordash to hurry them up. He called Dasher support to contact the restaurant to tell them to hurry up, because that's really going to be effective, right? Now, at the same time, I'm not saying you need to be at the mercy of the merchants here. If there's a problem with picking up for this restaurant, number one, you might want to consider picking up for them in the future. That's number one. Number two, this is why you need to multi-app. So in the event that they have you waiting for a certain amount of time, just turn on other apps, see if there's any other orders that you can get that are better paying, which sometimes that's the case, especially if you're in a plaza with a lot of nicer restaurants. If you get a good order, great. If you get their order first, phenomenal. But don't rush them, because quite honestly, it's not going to do anybody any good. Next is complaining and talking crap about the merchant as if they aren't there. Okay, we get it. You're frustrated, and honestly, I understand people that make you wait like the way they do can piss you off. Or maybe they were even the ones lacking professionalism and it ticked you off. I get it. It's totally understandable, but it's not like complaining to the customer or the dasher next to you is really going to solve anything. Dashers like to take it so far as to write a Yelp review or report them to DoorDash. Like, DoorDash actually cares about us enough to actually fix anything, right? Actually, Yeah, they do. McDonald's is now being punished for slow service, and I believe this is something that's going to eventually affect all merchants in the near future. Sure, the McDonald's issue is not going to really take into effect until 2023, but it is a sign that there are things that are being done right nowadays. Also, if you're complaining on Yelp to a larger food chain, like Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza, Cheesecake Factory, something of that effect, they can actually be fired or even get a talking to from their manager to actually step it up, or even a threat of fire. I remember one time I actually had a Cheesecake Factory order, and the lady was blatantly ignoring me and was treating me with such blatant disrespect. And it was not only preventing the customer from picking up their order, but everybody else involved was actually just overall upset with how this lady was treating me. I remember writing a Yelp review specifically about this worker, and after that, I never saw her work there again. Now, not every time you write a Yelp review is going to lead to someone getting fired, but they will get a talking to if that happens. I remember that happened with First Watch and a few other places. They ended up fixing the problem. In order for that to really work, though, you need to make sure you don't mention anything about being a delivery driver. You were picking up an order that was placed online. The service was terrible. The food there is not worth being disrespected. Also, the best thing you could do is fill out anything available in the app saying that the wait time is unreasonable and contact the customer letting them know what the wait time is going to be. Just make sure no matter what, you stay professional about it, especially with DoorDash. Next, we have flirting with the to-go person. Okay, so this one's mostly a guy problem. I get that. Most guys would be happy if a girl started hitting on them at work. One of the challenges that happen as a gig worker is that they will come across as flirty when dealing with the opposite gender. I remember making a Valentine's Day warning video that talked specifically about this with dealing with customers, but the rules apply to the to-go people as well. Now, sometimes that flirting is welcome, and if so, go for it. People have to meet some 15 to 30% of people meet their partners at work, and that was just out of a simple Google search. The number is actually probably higher than that. But if it seems like it isn't welcome, take the hint and back off. Personally, I think our accounts with DoorDash, UberEats, and GrubHub are a little too fragile to take that social or financial risk. Not only does this go against the terms of service of DoorDash, but it earns yourself a reputation because yes, they do talk about you after, even if it's totally not true. For those of you who are just friendly by nature and can come across as flirty, the best thing you can do is just keep things as professional as possible. If you need to hop on your phone to keep a conversational barrier between you two, go for it. Most people understand if they're on their phone, they're not open to conversation. Next, we have personal hygiene and appearance. Now, I know this one sounds like a no-brainer, but some merchants are actually really particular about it. They need to know whoever delivers their food is going to represent them in a positive or at least a neutral way. Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza near me actually banned somebody who had this terrible stench. Like, he smelled like he pissed himself anytime he walked into the restaurant. And it kind of just went throughout the restaurant. It was that bad. Now, I'm not saying you need to wear a suit and tie or even start sporting DD merch, because that's not good for anybody, especially if you're not too proud of working for DD. Just make sure you dress good, warm, comfortable, and take good care of yourself. If you think you need a shower, you do. Take one. Next is vehicle cleanliness. Now, I know what you're thinking. This one is bogus. The merchant doesn't look in your vehicle, and to a point, that is true. However, merchants are not the only one who care what's in your car. Customers care, you should care, and more recently, the state of Iowa is considering a bill to force drivers to have a clean car, and you can't have pets and no smoking. I'm not really sure how they're going to enforce it, but that's not the point. The point is, clean your vehicle of trash and make sure there aren't pets or pests in your car. I know I'm bringing up Anthony's coal-fired pizza a lot, but seriously, Melissa, the manager there, was kind of a hard ass about it. The same guy who smelled like piss also had a gross car and actually had some bugs in it that actually got into the food. And in retrospect, he probably got deactivated. He probably wasn't banned. He was probably deactivated. Next thing that DoorDashers do that merchants hate is the fact that you happen to be a DoorDash driver. Look, with everything happening in the news with no tip, no trip, decline now, and DoorDash just being a collective of the worst people in the world on a corporate level, DoorDashers and gig workers alike have earned a social stigma, and that affected all of us in a negative way. Sometimes it may not be you. It could just be that they suck. Now, I know that seems a little all-encapsulating on the subject, and I could be a little crude about it. Fair enough, that is true to a point. Treating gig workers like they're not even people, that came from somewhere. Quite honestly, it's disrespectful, but it does happen. Let's talk about how I got banned from a pizzeria in New York, because that's a fun story. I remember picking up from Phil's Pizzeria in New York. It was a small franchise out there, and I picked up from there a few times, and usually what I do is walk up to the counter to the only person who was there and said, "Hey, picking up for DD." Seems simple, right? It's like exactly what we're supposed to do. Now, John, or JJ, which I figured out later, this time when I walked up to the counter and said, "Hey, picking up for DD," he was like, "You know, you're really rude when you come up to the counter like that." Excuse me? He looked me in the eye like this. He got all up in my business and said, "I said you are rude." This was never an issue before. In fact, a lot of merchants actually said I was one of the nicer ones that they've ever had. This guy claimed I was rude. And call it Karen-esque of me, but I actually asked to speak with the manager. I didn't want to be treated like that. And he claimed that he was the manager. I told him that explains a lot. What he said next was actually kind of amazing to me. You're not supposed to come to the counter like that. You're supposed to wait online. Well, first of all, that is my job, where I come straight to the counter, say I'm here for DoorDash. That is actually literally what was in the pickup instructions. Don't wait online. Go straight to the counter and talk to the merchant. And second, there wasn't a line to wait on. There was nobody else there other than people sitting at a table, people who worked there, who was working with the people at the table, and then the two of us. Oh, and there were some kitchen people in the back, but again, that's not the point. After that, I decided to email the owner. Again, this was a franchise, so I emailed the owner of the pizzeria. I wrote a Yelp review as well as a Google review and a couple other reviews. And I contacted DoorDash during my first year. And this was during my first year of DoorDash because I thought that DoorDash actually gave a rip about drivers at that time. And I was so cute back then. Gosh. After that, I would notice that they would have a very active hotspot, but I would never so much as get a ping from them. To be honest, these results at the time were actually pretty acceptable to me. But in any case, did I miss anything? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. As always, make sure to smash the like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.